The recording. I just turned the recording. So if no questions, then let's move forward with our course. Your midterm is going to be next week. If if the things don't play out, well, we will have to reschedule the midterm. But we are moving with an assumption that the things will sort out before it gets too messy. There will not be any strike, and you should move with that assumption as well. There will not be any strike. Please don't go into the vacation mode. Make sure that you are up and ready for coming back to classes at a very short notice. It might get postponed, it might not happen, or I don't know what will happen. I cannot see into the future, but just be prepared just in case, if we have an exam next week and in a position, then definitely we will have the exam. If there is a strike, then we won't be having any class next week. I do reach out to you through an announcement. I'm sure college will be communicating with you as well quite a lot. So please watch out for all those emails and announcements. Going to have our midterm exam next week. The content that we will be covering will be from module number 1 to module number 8. We are going to cover module number 7 and 8 today. In the format of the questions, there will be 20 multiple choice questions of 1 mark each. There is no wrong answer, so if you don't know the answer, make an educated guess. And there will be short answer questions of 2 marks each. So total, your exam will be worth 30 marks. You have 65 minutes to answer the exam. And please forget to bring your HB pencils to mark on the Scantron sheet. Questions on the exam. Okay.
So, sir, the exam is in class or?
Yes, I will let you know the class number.
Oh.
A good question.
Yeah.
Oh, that you have shared last time was that to reschedule the classes. I talked to them and he said that Mohammed is the right person to talk with, and he sent my email to Mohammed as well. I don't know if you have reached the college or if you got a chance to talk with your other faculty, but if there is any change that comes down from the college, I will let you know. If you are able to enter into an agreement with other faculty members, if they are okay to move your classes, then we have our classes mornings on Saturdays. Okay. Let's move forward with our course. So we're covering number 7. Here. Talking about service design. I hope this one opens. We start with the picture. I saw this nice picture on Facebook one day. Hope you guys can see this picture. And in this picture, it tells a story, and the story does not seem to be very good and nice story. It looks like they are trying to build a bridge over a body of water, and they are not able to align the bridge. a design mistake to me. Like in terms of execution, there seems to be a good execution of the design, but the design looks like there are some flaws in the design. And this mistake, it's going to be a lot of resources that we will have to spend fix these kinds of problems. So if you spend some time at the design phase and making sure that your design is good, it's solid design, it's a robust design, in the long run, you will end up spending lesser money to run your operations. Have a look. I want to make sure that the record is on. Yeah, it's on. Yeah. That you're supposed to build a chair and make this chair, and then later on you realize that the chair is not balanced and able to sit on the chair because it's a wobbly chair. If you would have checked the design at the design phase, you might have figured out some of the areas in which they could have had, or the design could have gone wrong. So, it's much more important if you spend some time in the design phase, because in the long run, you will be in a much better position. Sometime in the design phase, it looks like sometimes we get a feeling that we are slow, we are not picking up the right pace, or maybe we are investing in the wrong phase of the life cycle. But this is a very important phase of the life cycle. Without this thing, there could be serious repercussions that can occur. So we're talking about service design today, what is covered in the service design. Let's have a look. Here is our service design. Service design basically gives you the guidance on both the new as well as the existing services. It makes sense that we are designing our new services, but what's the reason that we have to design the existing services? And back to what we have discussed earlier. The services changes over a period of a time, and when the value of the services changes, you might have to more bells and whistles to your service. You might have to add new features to your service. You might have to build new integration points for your service. So all these things could actually result into your service coming back to the design phase again. In designing the service, you're designing a couple of other things along with it. But one of the most important documents that you will produce would be service design package. The design package basically contains all the designs that you have created for your service. The requirements for the service design basically comes from, in my experience, and it becomes more applicable when we'll be talking about availability management. These things don't exist in isolation. Even though from a practical perspective, we are saying that the strategy and design are different. But when we don't have any idea of how much it is going to cost us, we'll get a better idea only when we start designing something. And then it's difficult to say that this is how much we are going to charge for our service. And you guys remember from your that chargeback model is a part of your service strategy and service design. What I say is, in the real life, all these phases of the life cycle are not so distinct from each other as much as they look when we approach them theoretically. You guys have the real world experience as well. A lot of things do happen in an interdependent way. They are not independent of each other, but they are interdependent upon each other. So design the service. What are the things that we design? The first thing is the core solution that we design. This is where we are making a big bets. This is where we are saying that either going to go the CDMA or whether we are going to go GSM. Do I want to have a proprietary operating system like a Microsoft, or do I want to have an open source operating system like Linux or Unix? Do AC current, or do I want to use a DC current? Do I have to have 110 volts, or do I want to have a 220 volts? So those kinds of big decisions are made, are talking about this. So that's one part. The other part that we do is that we also design the tools to manage our services. You know, let's example of a network service. You know, you are running a wireless network within an organization. By wireless, I mean Wi-Fi. If anything happens to the device, you are not going to go to, you know, those routers or those repeaters or those, you know, hubs or whatever those are in your network. You're actually going to have some kind of softwares that can basically look at what is happening in the environment, so that you know, you can fix it. Similarly, I have a couple of examples for you in terms of the tools, and I thought maybe this is worthwhile. So if you're building a high-rise building, you know, if that's your service, you need to have tools like this, the one that you can see in the foreground. So these tools are basically used to assess the exteriors of the buildings, right? If the window cleaning that is required or any repair from the outside that is required, so tools can be used. There are some other examples of the tools. These were tools that were being used when they were bringing down the service. Oh my goodness, this is like, okay. So these, you know, these are big construction means as a part of you know, Lakeshore Boulevard ramp that they were bring because it has lived its utility. Even when your service has reached the end of life, you still some of the tools to basically you know, safely bring it down from an active mode to which mode you want to say, whether it's a sleep mode or a retired mode, right? An importance for the fence as well. I hope you can see the fence. Fence is making sure that the environment in which they are working is safe, and the way they are bringing down the service is also a right way of bringing down this whole ramp. They are not, you know, reaching the other part of the road as well. So when you hire your services, you might need certain tools. There's another example of the same kind of the tools in action when services are being retired. Another keep in mind while thinking about the tools is that, you know, the tools that are used to create the service might not be the same tools that you use to, you know, maintain. An example, you know, that are used to build a car, create a car, are not the same one that are used to maintain the car over the life of the car. So you design the tools as well along with your service, right? The next part that we design is the architecture. This is where we will say that whether we are going to have an, you know, open architecture, or whether we're going to have a modular architecture, whether we are going to have a system-oriented architecture, what kind of an architecture we're going to have for service. This is where we will be some architecture level work, and we'll have to design our architecture as well. Next is metrics and measurements, which are again very important. Okay, let's go to an example of a car. In a normal car, right? Look at the dashboard. You can see some of the gadgets there. Gives you the information. There are some measuring tools out there. So speedometer tells you the speed. One is the odometer, tells you the distance you have traveled. One engine temperature, you can see whether the engine is overheating or it's too hold, and this one for the fuel, which tells you how much fuel do you have in your tank. But it's a normal car. Uh, car, you must ability to see if there is a what pressure in your tires. If there is a low pressure in the tire, they might become, might get a signal on your dashboard to indicate that you have a problem to address. But in the entry level cars, might not be the case, right? We haven't designed those metrics as part of the design phase. It becomes all impossible to measure those metrics when you are in the operational phase, when your services is up and running. Right? The piece that you design is you design the processes associated with the service, right? Processes to maintain the service, to upgrade the service, and service as well. Suppose a couple of different principles. A good design basically means that you will have a lower total cost of operations in the long run. In the example of the picture, they were not able to align the bridge. Not going to be a multi-million-dollar effort to fix that one. But if you spend some more time and more energy in the design phase, then probably they've avoided this situation. So, your total cost of operation goes up. But if you spend enough time on design, you validate your design, and possibly you build prototype, or you roll out your final production, then it's easier to catch the errors up early. Of the design is that the services becomes agile, they are more resilient, they are more robust, they're more scalable. We can already think about it when you were designing your course. At the whole, of design, a keyboard found press F1 to continue. Delta. So ironic. The keyboard is not found. How are you expecting me to press Del? How are you expecting me to press F1? It's not going to happen. So they have designed a better solution for this kind of a problem, that what we are going to display to the customer, it has to be meaningful, and it's to make sense to the customer. Okay. Except, as I said earlier, the requirements come from the requirements phase. The requirements comes from the strategy phase, when you have basically finalized your service, you started your service, it's a part of a service pipeline now. That's when you can pass on the requirements on to the design phase. You take those requirements, build the service based upon those requirements, and over the service design package SDP over to the transition. Will then take the SDP, and then they will start building the service based upon what is mentioned in the SDP. And SDP's service design package will basically contain the 5 elements. One, core service. Second is your tools and technology. Third is the metrics. Fourth is the processes. Fifth one is the architecture. So you approach, when you are looking at the design, you are looking, how you're going to maintain the service and how you are going to retire the service if you have to retire the service later on. Right. Earlier, design includes not only your core service, but it also includes your architecture, your processes, your metrics, and whatnot. and you put all these things together into one package, one document, and you hand it over to service transition. And the transition start building based upon what you have mentioned here. The document that we are talking about here is called the service design package. If you haven't designed the matrix at the earlier stage, it becomes almost impossible to insert those metrics later on in your service without fundamentally changing the design of the service. Sometimes possible, but it could become very expensive to add those metrics. A good integrates well with your configuration management database, CMDB. A CMDB is basically your logical relationship of the configuration items. We'll talk more about CMDB, I believe, in service operations. It's going to be part of service transition. Somewhere in the transition or operations, I don't remember exactly where DB lies. But it gives you the logical relationship between the various entities, your whole ecosystem. Logical relationships like server X is residing on server A, and B is also residing on server A. So that if service X is impacted and we have determined the root cause to be server A, then we clearly know that the other could have been impacted as well. Sure that your services are agile, resilient, secure, scalable, robust. Those quality gets associated with the line. And this is your lower cost of ownership. So takes the requirements from the strategy phase. Service design package contains the tools, the technology, processes, and few things, basically 5 things in total, metrics and measurements, as well as your solutions. All those things are part of your package. Built based upon the requirements coming from the service strategy phase. This usually I have already mentioned it. It's one of the most important documents that they look at. It also includes both the functional as well as the non-functional requirements. So there are types of requirements. One is a functional, one is a non-functional. That your functional requirement is that you need a car. Be a functional requirement. A non-functional requirement would be I need a red car. So the red car, the red in that portion is going to be a non-functional requirement. Right. POP is designed as a part of service design. We have just talked about the findings that we design as a part of a service design. I know activity happening on the chat. I'm going to check that activity. While I'm checking that activity, is there any question? Okay. Architecture could be, whether a modular architecture where I can, plug in the different codes are going to have a closed architecture that time I have to upgrade anything, I have to write a lot of things. Think about it. Think about Microsoft for a second, right? Buy the Microsoft machines. You can take it any mouse, any USB drive or any other things, and you plug into it. You plug any printer into it. More likely there is a chance that they will have a driver already available for you. Play model actually is one kind of an architecture. The other architecture could be that every single time I am going to ask you to download the drivers and then drivers for the viruses before I bring them over to my operating system. In these days, there is a service-oriented architecture, and people are also looking at infrastructure, and it's called IOS, I believe, something around those lines. And they are also talking about infrastructure as a platform to build your services. So, it's upon how you are building that architecture. Now, if you go and look at the physical buildings, they do have some architecture that they have followed. That's why they can expand their buildings up top. Fundamentally, they have the right kind of a foundation to support the building. If there is no right kind of a foundation to support the building, then you cannot add anything else to the building. You have to live by what you have. Right? Does it is there any? Okay. If there is, then let's move on. The process we are going to talk about right now is your availability management process. And availability management basically makes sure that you position to meet the agreed upon needs of your customers. And always, remember that it is the agreed upon needs. It's not what you think, and it's not what I think of the service, but when I have agreed upon the service. And so that is very important. That's a keyword, that agreed upon time frame, agreed upon needs of the business. And manner is another good term. Timely manner is another good term. Keeping the risk low is another good term. So, Sam, if you see any answers with these kinds of a statement and trying to create a balance along many lines, it will be probably the right answer. I'm not saying that this is going to be the right answer, but this is that this will be the right answer or very high. Management is both proactive and reactive in nature. Proactive, that it gets an information from the business relationship management, and they will know how the business is growing, in which direction the business is moving, whether it's expanding, whether it's contracting. All information, if it gets passed to the availability management, then availability can work accordingly according to the requirements of the business. But anything, once which happens as a result of a non-availability of the services, then availability management steps in a reactive mode and try to fix that situation as possible. Yes, other processes, as I have already mentioned, even processes do interact with other processes, but at a very high level, the phases of the life cycle are not as discrete as they look on a book. Active, I have already talked about these ones. There's one example that, if you have not planned for your availability, then you might have to, you run into situations where it can become a challenge. Last year during the presidential elections, many people started hitting the Canadian immigration website, and that website went down. So I thought that so many people will be visiting the website at the same time, when there was not enough capacity behind the scenes to cater to the needs of so many users to access the website at the same time, and it went down. So availability management is to make sure that you have an availability management plan which aligns to the needs of the business. It sees whether the business is growing or shrinking, in which time the business is going, meet the current and the future needs of the business. That is availability management. There are certain directions within the availability management. A thing I want to tell you is that there will be no formulas in the exam, and I will not ask you to do any math in the exam. So you have to remember that formula. You have to remember the definition, what is availability, what is reliability, what is maintainability. So availability is calculated as a part of your uptime, for how much time service was up and running. Again, based upon the agreed upon time, not the 24/7 service. It's you and I have agreed as a customer service provider. If we agreed that available for 20 hours, which is the example here. In this example, we have agreed that the service will be available for 20 hours in a day, and that becomes the agreed upon time. And this was not available for 2 hours in that particular day. The way to calculate availability is that you subtract the time for which the service was not available from the time that you have promised, divide by your promised time 100, and that's how you will get availability. 90% availability is not good enough these days. That your services will be up and running 99.99% of the time, especially for the critical systems, is a requirement that the services has to be up and running for a very long period of time. It's a reliability, and there are two terms in the reliability, which is mean time service interruptions and mean time between service failures. Basically, they are calculating for how long the service is up and running on an average, and one of the calculation is taking the downtime into account, and another one does not take downtime into account. So between service incidents does not take any downtime into account. It's a very simple formula. The service was available divided by the number of the breaks, right? Whereas in mean time between service failures, what we do is we reduce time and then we divide it by the number of the breaks. So that you will get in mean time between service failures is going to be lower than mean time between service interruptions. We are decreasing the numerator before divided by the same denominator. And the last one is your maintainability. Maintainability is that how quickly we can recover our services. Once the service goes down, how quickly do we bring it back to life again? And the way to calculate it is, we take the overall downtime and divide by the number of the breaks. And it gives us the average that on average, if the service goes down, it means down for this much amount of time. And like I said earlier, I will be testing you on the formulas, but I will be testing you on the understanding of the concepts. Business functions. In a particular environment, is a very important department. It just cannot go down. So what you do is that you have some backup, some extra resources for the emergency department, just in case anything happens there, quickly resolve those issues. If there is a life and death situation in the emergency department, things, though important, can wait, but the things in the emergency department just cannot wait. They have to happen, or there are some serious consequences. So these are the vital business functions. uh, this means what are the vital business functions for those businesses. Let's say that you're a big organization in certain services. If your services should be running all the time, but the customers basically interact with your organ to register their complaints or to make an inquiry. If the system is not working well, yes, there is an impact, but that is not a huge impact. So that was availability management. Next, service level agreements. Kinds of a service level agreement. There are three different kinds of an agreements, and there are three different kinds of a service level agreements as well. So let's first of all talk about the three different kinds of, and I'm going to use a PowerPoint to explain this concept. My computer is very slow today. Yeah. At the very top, what you have is your select agreement. It's called SLA. It is supported by OS, which is operational level agreement, and UC, which is an underpinning contract. So, underpinning contract and operational level agreements they support your service level agreement. Of each other. So the service level agreement you sign with the customer. On contract you sign with the suppliers. And your operations you sign parties of an organization, right? So let's say that you up a customer service level agreement, and the scenario is that you provide handheld devices to the organization and the internal part of the organization. There is a good chance that you are not the one who is manufacturing these devices, and you are getting it from somewhere or from some supplier. Your contract with your customers is going to be based upon the contract that you have with the supplier, which is called an underpinning contract. If your supplier tells you that they will replace a broken device within 48 hours, there is no way that you can go and commit to your customers that you will be able to replace that device in 48 hours, because there is no time for you in between. You need some time in between as well. So likely what you will tell your customer that you will be able to replace that device in 60 hours or 72 hours, right? You are based upon your relationship with your suppliers, and those relationship and those terms and conditions are basically captured as a part of what we call earning contracts, right? And other different contracts as well as other documentation as well that exists with your operational level agreements. And operational level agreements are basically the agreements between the two internal parties of the same organization. It could be between a data team and a server team, or it could be between the server team and the network team, or in the database or database and IVR, whatever those ones are, right? The point is that these are internal ends of the same organization that is providing the service to the customer. Now, customer is not going to see OLA or the underpinning contracts. The customer only gets to see your service level agreements. But these level agreements are basically supported by your contracts and okay. We had talked about these three, these two underpinning contracts and operational level agreements. And there are service level requirements. The name suggests, these are the requirements that the design has to meet. There are some service level targets as well. Service and the targets basically come down from service strategy phase. With the SLA, OLA, and underpinning contract. Okay, it's golden. Okay, I will in then. Now, underpinning one. Underpinning contracts are the contracts that you sign with your suppliers. You have a contract with Dell as an example, right? It tells you that if anything happens to your computer, computer within 48 hours. You're a Best Buy, right? Best Buy is selling Dell computers. If sells a computer to the customer, the Best is not going to say that we will replace your computer within 48 hours if anything happens to it, or to say that we will minimum of 48 hours to your customer to replace your computer. It might take up to 60 hours, or it might take up to 72 hours as well. You need to take some buffer time with you as well. And when you're promising something to the customer, which upon your underpinning contract, then you have to take your underpinning contract into account. Okay, I'm going to show you a nice catalog. Carolina has created a really nice service catalog here. It's available online. This is one of the best that I have seen in the industry. Most have seen the Word documents and the Excel documents, but this is really very well done. So what it does is it lists all the services, all the agreements that we have. The screen that I have over here is basically your old screenshot. What sharing currently is a new website. What are the three types of service level agreements? What is the difference between OLA and underpinning contract? We need to the second question, what's the difference between service level agreement, level agreement and underpinning contract? But what are three different types of LAs? That's your service-based service level agreement. Second one is a customer-based service level agreement. And the third one is a mix of both. Service-based service level agreement is something like, Blackboard as an example. So when the Blackboard goes down, it goes down for everyone. It goes down for the faculty as well as the students. So faculties do not have any extra privileges in terms of availability of the Blackboard. it becomes available to every single person. When it's not available, it's not available to the people, whether you're a faculty member, whether you are in college admin, whether you are a student. So that service-based service level agreement. The one is a customer-based service level agreement, right? Where companies tend to, develop a customized custom service level agreement based upon the unique needs of the customer. So our college, as an example, might have a customer level service level agreement with the Microsoft, because running so many machines on the Microsoft operating system. And Microsoft, on the other hand, might have said that, you know what, we are going to reserve 2 people to address your queries throughout the whole year. Right? And the third one is a combination of both these. The third one is a combination of your risk-based service level agreement and the customer-based service level agreement as well. This is a service catalog management process, and basically what the service catalog does is it provides you information about the operational services in the organization. It tells you how you can order these services, how much it's going to cost you, and in terms there are any issues with the service, what you can do and what are your rights as well, right? If you look at the restaurant menu, it's very simple to the restaurant menu. When you go to the restaurant, and you go to a good restaurant, and first of all, what you will see is in the catalog, you can name of the dish, you can see the ingredients through which this dish is made, and you can also see the price. If you go to a really good restaurant in a town, then what you will see, in addition to the price, you will also see, how much time does it take to that dish, right? And what is the calorie count of that dish? So all that information is part of your service catalog. Few restaurants where, when they change the price, rather than changing the whole catalog, they will have a one sticker on top of the old price with the new price. Or when they take out any service, in this case of a restaurant, when when they're making that particular dish that they used to offer earlier, sometimes what I have seen that, they have just crossed the line with the hand, rather than publishing a new service catalog, just taking a pen and crossing that one out. Remember, there is one service catalog, but it has 2 views. One is the business view and one is the IT view. Again, it's only one service catalog in an organization. You don't have multiple service catalogs, but the business only gets a business view. IT might get a technical view where there is a lot more information available as compared to the business view. Let's have a look at this one. That catalog we were looking. North Carolina, government of North Carolina. Lots of good information they have given. They're talking about their services, and then they have a list of all the services. I click on any, let's say that I click on a project management as an example. It tells you what is the service. This is a description of the service, the project management service. Let's click here. The service description, benefits of using that service, who are the customers for the service, many departments within that particular organization, and do they charge, and how can they contact any people for some more details. When I click here, rates, these are for 2017 and 18. It tells you, for a project manager, how much they are charging for an application and device support, how much they are charging for scanning services, how much they are charging. All those things are mentioned over here as part of the service catalog. Now you can equip this catalog two catalogs that you have seen in the restaurants, where you go and you look at the dish and it tells you, uh, what's the contents, ingredients of this dish, how many people can eat this dish. Those kinds of information you get off your restaurant menu or a service catalog. Service catalog management is to make sure that we can efficiently and effectively add the services to the service catalog and can take out the services out of the service catalog as required. The live version of this website, this was an old screenshot. So what's the difference between service level agreement and service catalog, and the different types of service catalogs? Okay. Moving right. There's some repetition in this module 8. I'll just go directly to the discussion portion. Section on the discussion board. 7. So there is a comment. Let's read that comment. Service level agreement is a binding document. It is a binding document. There are penalties mentioned in the service level agreement. If you don't meet service level agreement, there are consequences for you for sure. Describe a process and a vital business function that I think is important for your educational institute. Or describe what you think are the mechanisms that are put in place for high availability and fault tolerance, right? So think about something that you believe is a vital business function, and what are the mechanisms that are potentially put in place to maintain the service. Capacity management is very similar to the availability management. And capacity and demand are two same coin. And you promise availability based upon your capacity. So when you're talking about availability, basically before you commit anything on the availability, the capacity of your current infrastructure, whether your current infrastructure can support what you are going to promise to your customers or not. And again, the keywords are the cost-effective manner, timely manner, should meet the needs of your customer, whether it's an individual customer or a business. So those are a couple of the keywords, and if you see them creating a balance, the chances that that statement is going to be the true statement in the exam is quite high. Management is again proactive and reactive in nature, and they look at the changing needs of the business and evolving along with how business is evolving. It's demand and your supply as agreed. As agreed is the keyword over here. Your agreement is the keyword. Now it could be more, and your supply could be a little less, but as long as you have on that one, that's okay. When Apple launches an iPhone, there is a big rush to buy those things. But what Apple does is that they ask you to, you pre-order your devices. But again, the device is much more than their capacity to produce the devices. They are not able to give you devices on the day one. So with an agreement, they'll tell you that you will get your device in 10 days or 12 days or 2 weeks frame, and that's when you will get it. right? Okay. As I was saying, it's both proactive and reactive in nature. Tries to meet the agreed upon needs of the or wants of the customer or the business, and agreed upon level at a level where it makes an economical sense to provide those services. Also keeping the risk uh, at an acceptable level. So you balance those things out, and what you get is your capacity management plan or an availability management plan, proactive and reactive in nature. While you are thinking or considering capacity management. Yeah.
Can you explain again the proactive and the active and difference between them?
Proactive is that get up early in the morning and you go out for a run so that you don't catch any diseases. You keep your health. Proactive is when you go to a doctor and doctor tells you, time to start running. You're keeping a good health, and that's a reactive mode. Similarly, RST is looking at the demand management. Remember, we talked about the business relationship management as a part of service strategy, and there is to keep the communication channels open. One of the things that they communicate through those channels is what's happening with the business. Are they expanding? Are they contracting? And what are they thinking? What's on their plate? What's on their 3-year plan? On their 5-year plan? And, I take that information in, and then they will start working on it. And they will not wait till that business has built their plan, and now you are looking to scramble to build the capacity. So that's proactive and reactive. Reactive would be things have happened, a business has build their plan, they're already working on their plan. Then you don't have any other example. Like that, you are a cell phone company and you are launching a new product. Obviously, when you launch a new product, there are going to be customer queries. And to those customer queries, you need to train some people internally who can answer those queries, on phone or on a chat. When your backend are not aligned with each other, then what will happen is that business of product in the market, I don't have any idea of what they've done, what the business has done, and the customers start calling about this new product. There will be no idea. Nobody will know how to route the call and where to route the call, and who can provide the answers for this new product or the service that they have launched. But if you're talking with each other, then the plan ahead. These are the people that we need to train. These are the number of calls that we are expecting per day. As a result of it, we have to increase the bandwidth of our team. So have to hire more people. This business has launched and now scrambling. You are trying to find the people who can answer the questions, and you are trying to build the more capacity to handle the additional call volume.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. I heard one thing. If it's not, please let me know and I will explain again. Capacity looked at. Sorry, to make a comment. Yeah.
How can you manage?
I can't hear you very well. Could you please speak louder? Move towards.
How can you manage that reaction and proaction? How can you manage that before that happens?
How can panic mode. There is no of managing that reaction. The thing is to avoid this thing from happening. But this has happened, then what you need to do is quickly situation under control. You take 1 or 2 people off from their daily jobs, and then you train them and on your abilities at that point in time. Obviously, there is going to be the burnout. Your brand reputation is going to take a hit. You know, it's much better. It's how do you, when the doctor has told you that you have this not good, you need to start exercising now, and not you to run 1 hour every day. It's going to do that, right? But if you're doing it on your own, whether half an hour, whether 45 minutes, then into 1 hour is easy. Right? So always good. Being active has costs associated with it.
There are not any emergency plan for that.
So
That not any there are not any emergency plans for that.
So emergency plans are plans, indicates. In that case, you have already thought about that this is an emergency that can happen, and I'm going to react to that emergency. What is the gaps in communication? And that is not an emergency. That or negligence on the part of components of the same organization. I'll example. Let's say, emergency management plan could be a plan that if there is an accident that happens on the road, then how we react to the action. That's your emergency management plan. If created a road and they have not installed the street light on it, the municipality that we have created a new road, then you cannot expect that those street lights will be installed over time, overnight. But if I've given a notice to the municipality in advance, then they can install the street lights. And the emergency management plan could be that in case these street lights don't work, what do we have as backup? And there's a complete information that is being shared with the various entities who are involved. Somebody is in a situation that I don't know about it. I don't know what was happening. Right? So it's between reacting to something and addressing an emergency. Okay, man. As I was mentioning earlier, business continuity management basically talks about the business continuity plans. Business have their own continuity plans, and the goal of the IT is to come up with the iris continuity plans that aligns very tightly with the business continuity plan. And what IT does is they do recovery exercises every year to make sure that their backup systems will actually run in case there is any emergency. What IT does is sometimes they create their own emergency just to check whether the backup systems will be able to respond in a manner in which you expect them to respond. Capacity is at the component level. This is a commonly used terms between the IT professionals when we are talking about the utilization rate, whether it's a CPU utilization rate, memory utilization, or a network utilization. We are basically talking about a very low level, in-depth talk that is happening here. We're talking at the configuration item level. Whereas you can also look at the capacity from the service level, where you're talking about end-to-end service. You're not talking about actual process, but an end-to-end service. And again, coming back to Obamacare uh, or immigration website that got impacted because a lot of people try to access the website at the same time, and there's no capacity proven for such spike in the demand. Questions: what is the difference between availability, reliability, and maintainability? What is function? And what's the difference between business capacity management, service capacity management, and component capacity management? Of the module, and we will be up our forum here. Security management. So the goal of the information security management is to make sure your assets are safe, whether it's information, whether it's information systems, or whether sometimes it goes on to include your physical security as well. So the information security gives you the policies on the various topics, and the policies could be or use of internet, or the use of the VPN from home, or the use of email. What is your password policy? What is your asset disposal policy? All those policies are basically given by your information security management, and these policies are basically implemented by access management. Access management is the mechanism through which information security basically comes to life. This is a very important discussion these days, given what is happening with the Equifax these days. There was a breach in the systems that was widely reported in the net, and we also, to bite off of it. I was reading that there was another breach on the Equifax website, which is a very, very terrible thing to happen to anyone. Security will basically give you the policies on, the I have mentioned.
Excuse me, sir. I have a question here. So we talk about information security management, and we talk about the physical security and the security of the other components and the password. What is the best way? We can say a formula or thing which we can decide how many resources and what is the percentage of resources we're going to put for physical security, what resources or budget we're putting for other resource management to do the information security management, in like a proper rules or regulations, or any type of formula we can follow, or what is the best way?
It depends, right? And examples where they consider physical security as a part of your information security have said that no clear-cut formula of saying that X percentage of people should be responsible for your physical security, whereas another N should be responsible for information security. What you can do is it's an ongoing process. And our information security audits that you can do onto systems regularly and look for the loopholes and fix those loopholes. The physical security, what I have seen, the way it happens is that either could be done through the facilities, or could be done through the information security. What case may be, what you do is you end up having a contract with the physical security provider that for this amount of money, I expect that you have installed at least these many cameras to monitor my premises, and these are the points where I need you to put additional cameras because these are more sensitive points, and these are the points at which I want a physical patrol. Somebody should be walking up and down that area. So you tend to enter into those kinds of a contract, and however many people you require. As I just now gave you the example, there is no X number of people you want. Those would be done by technology. There could be a company A which is more reliant upon the people for the physical security, but be a company B which has installed cameras all over the place, and they are less reliant on the people for the physical security. So there is no one single answer that I can give you. There are various formats through which you can achieve your objective.
Because I have done some research on physical security of the components, and it was amazing that how most of the larger companies don't put this scenario in their information security management, that the physical security is as important as the other part of the information security management.
I agree with you because, as I said, I have seen few cases, not many cases, where information security was passed to physical security as well, usually through the facilities.
Okay.
Yeah, and your experience and your observation is very valid. That information security tends to focus more on the soft side, with information and data. Those not so much on the physical side of security.
Yes.
There are some other regulations that can come into play. One is the PCI. PCI does do their audit. PCI is basically a payment card industry. MasterCard and two other companies had came together and formed their own consortium. And if you are using our products, if you are using Visa, whether in a credit mode or in a debit mode for the transactions, then you have to comply with our security standards. And we will come and audit your systems on a regular basis, and we will ask you the questions. And if you comply with our standards, then you cannot transact with the products. You cannot pay payment with credit or debit. And based upon the number of the transactions that you process in a year, you belong to the different categories. The more transactions that you do per year, you go into much higher and the stricter categories, or asked to do more because more customer data. This is an old example. Recently, we have seen the same thing happen with the Equifax. That there was a breach, and as a result of the breach, the CEO and the chief information security officer have their jobs. Either they have resigned or they have been fired. I think that the question that was asked earlier, what is percentage? A part of the answer lies in here. And you look at the whole process. What you do is that you plan for your information security. What is going to be your information security posture? How many firewalls do you want to have? What kind of a firewalls? What is the layer security that you have? You will do all those planning, and then you will implement the plan. You will implement your security plan, whatever you have decided about it. A single tier security or a multi-tier security you want it, and then you will evaluate whether it's working well or not. And there's constant evaluation going on, and you try to ensure that whenever things try to go off the road, you bring them back onto the road through your controls, and through any other upgradation or the maintenance or the patches that you might have to do. That becomes your part of the maintenance process. of a heart bug that happened a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember or not. That TCP IP protocol has a loophole that could be exploited, do some kind of nonsense activity in my terms. You damage some organizations using TCP IP protocol and exploiting the loopholes of that protocol. A revenue agency did as a precautionary measure back then was they shut down the on receipt of the taxes. Say that we will not be receiving any taxes online. If you need to submit your taxes, you have to submit it through paper. And this happened during March, April timeframe, which tends to be very busy season for Canada Revenue Agency, which impacted their incoming revenues. And Revenue Agency basically had to extend the tax deadline by the number of the days which they are not accepting the online taxes. So revenues were delayed as a result of it. So there was an impact for Canada Revenue Agency. Supply management. Sorry. Let's go back. Management and my system is running on its own. So if you remember from what I have drawn on a PowerPoint, basically responsible to make sure that this piece of the relationship. Do you want? Okay. So so management is going to show that the relationship between yourself as an organization and suppliers is working well. They are responsible for creating the underpinning contracts and managing those underpinning contracts. They are responsible to make sure that we have the right kind of the suppliers, that we are working with the right kind of the people. Suppliers can evolve as our business is evolving. As we are expanding, the suppliers can expand, and at times they are also responsible to offboard the suppliers if the supplier is not performing. If you are not getting the value for your money, then you might say that, what, Mr. Joe, it's a pleasure meeting with you, but you cannot serve the needs of our organization. So the fire management does. And in recent cases, we have seen Samsung as an example. Last year when they launched their Samsung, Galaxy Note 7, there were problems with the battery. Everybody knows that Samsung does not make those batteries, but the thing was, it's the Samsung brand that took a hit because of what the supplier has done. It was Samsung's fault as per se. But supplier messed up in producing those batteries, but I don't know what happened. But it's of the Samsung that hit. Similarly, when you are working with your suppliers, you want to make sure that your suppliers can live up to your brand reputation, all the hard work that you have done over the years to build that customer loyalty can be gone over a very short period of time. Colossal mistakes happen, and make sure that it's not happening because you are dealing with a lousy supplier. Right? Off of supplier management in short, make sure the things are nice and tight. We are getting the value out of the contract, and the supplier is meeting all the actual obligations that we have for them. This is supplier and contract management database, and supplier management is responsible of managing that database. In that database, we store all the contracts and the RFPs and all other documentation associated with our suppliers. the suppliers into four different categories. One are community level suppliers, sanitation services, cleaning services could be put into that category where, from the perspective, the value that you are getting out of the services are very low. And the next could be your operational suppliers, where you get some value out of these ones, but they are not of strategic importance for you. Then comes the technical suppliers, people with whom you are working today, who has a big stake in your business, or your outsourced partners, and all those suppliers come under this umbrella. And last one is strategic suppliers. This is where you're building your future with these people, and very important for you because you're looking into future with them. You're gonna make sure that they are able to meet your needs in the future. If you are expanding and you're working with a supplier, you make sure that that supplier is able to expand and provide services to format or the new area wherever you're going. Right? Manufacturing, as an example, cars have hundreds and thousands of parts, and the car manufacturers don't manufacture those parts, and that's a reason called an assembly line, because they're assembling the parts. But at the end of the day, if anything goes wrong with your car, you don't blame the manufacturer of that part. You blame the brand name of the car, whichever car that you're driving. You blame that brand name. You don't blame the underneath it, right? So it becomes the responsibility of the parent brand to that the suppliers that they are dealing with can up to the reputation of their brands. This is the service continuity management. And the goal of the service continuity management is to basically make sure that your vital services are up and running, and the services for which you have a business continuity plan and business continuity program is in place. That is complemented by IT service continuity plan. There are some critical services that needs to run. In no case they can go down, and you will have a backup for those services. And what you do is, a part of your IT continuity plan, you do test those services to make sure these are running fine in case of any emergency. And you do is sometimes you create your own emergencies on purpose. That's called a disaster recovery. And you test your systems to see, in the case of a disaster, how you're going to react. In North America, most of the organizations do a fire drill twice a year, which means that on purpose the fire alarm will go on. This is a false alarm, but it is done on purpose to see how the crowd is reacting to that fire alarm. Are able to vacate the building within a stipulated time frame? Did they followed all the procedures? Did anybody tripped over the doors opening? Okay. Did the lifts came to halt, or the lifts were still working? Those things are tested. So we in IT also do the same kind of a testing, where we will press on fire alarm button to that there is a fire. Now, how do we deal with this fire? It is called business IT continuity, or sometimes it's also called disaster recovery. So just explain to you about the business continuity plans, and how they needs to be complemented by the IRIS continuity plans. And again, the point to remember over here is that not all the services are important. Not all the services are vital business functions. Kind of a thing is done only for services. not for all the services. Example, if I can blow it up a little bit more, see it. It has covered before. Feb 2014, buses are cancelled as a result of inclement weather conditions. Child care services are open. There's a notice basically which is going on the website of the college, which tells you that this are not available. This is even at a time when their primary service, which is education, but expectation from the IT is that the website should be able to run, be able to post the message on the site. Account should be working. The Facebook account should be working. Guardian, Humber Guardian app should be working as well. So even when people are suspending their core services, the expectations from the IT in terms of the continuity of the IT services is very, very high. For example, in 2013 was a very interesting year. What happened over here in the summer term was, we had a lot of rainfall. In 2 hours, we got a month's worth of rainfall. There was a big, heavy downpour one day on a summer, and there was flooding all over the place. And the people had to be rescued through the boats. Police actually brought out the boats that used to patrol the lake. So boats were basically running on the roads because the roads got flooded like anything, and the people have to be rescued. And during the winter time, what happened was the exact opposite of what happened in the summer. So in the winter time, we had an ice storm. Usually a snowstorm, but during we got an ice storm, which meant that atmospheric conditions were such that whenever the snow was hitting any object, it was hitting ice very quickly. The moment the snow was hitting the trees, or the snow was hitting the power cables, or was hitting the street lights, it was going into the ice, and ice becomes very heavy, and all these things were tripping down, and there's a big mess all over. There was a catastrophic ice storm lasted for quite some time. And as a result, people were affected. But even during that time, the expectation was that IT services should be running, your wireless network should be running so that you can make calls to your friends and family and let them know that you are safe. So that is the kind of expectations that we have from IT in terms of the continuity, that even when we are suspending our core services, we expect IT to be up and running. Online discussion, an example of how you were affected by the non-availability of services. The business took to rectify the situation. So there will be an IT service or it could be a non-IT service, it's your choice. I'm posting this discussion up on the board. This brings us to the end of the first half of the term. Okay, I will assume that everything is good. Let me check the chat box. Just if there's any question, no questions there. So we have our exam next week. In class, I will let you know the classroom. Hoping that there will not be any strike. In case there is a strike, then we will go by the notice that the college puts out in the strike, and the strike lasting for a week or more than that, there will not be any class next week. It will be a strike. Right? And college will put up a notice on when the classes are supposed to be resumed, and will go by in the college notice. I'm hoping and keeping my fingers crossed that people will come to some kind of agreement before that time. Information that I get, and college will also keep you posted with the information. And please keep on checking the college website too. Okay, just talking about, once again repeating about the next week in class there will be 20 choice questions of mark each, and then there will be 5 short answer questions of 2 marks each. Total there are 30 marks. There is no negative marking for the wrong answer on the multiple choice. So if you don't know the answer, make an educated guess. You will get 65 minutes to answer the exam. Whether you do the multiple choice first or the other one first, it does not matter to me, but please bring your HB pencils to mark on the Scantron. Module 1 to 8 are part of our midterm. Any questions now? No questions, then we'll hope to see you next week. Oh, there's something on the chat. And a snapshot of what we have covered, so we could be able to screen and see through our. Waiting the question on the chat. I'll come to you. Yeah, so snapshot, there are there are the recordings posted. I'll try to put this recording up as soon as possible. Other there is nothing that I can offer you. Question from the presentations, but book is your main source of information. Book should be your main source of information. I think that is not covered as a part of these slides. That might be exam. Again, it is mentioned, if it is mentioned in the book. As it is mentioned in the book, then you have it in the exam as well. Module 1 to 8 that you have to. Ari was asking me a question on the mic. Could you please ask your question again? Question on the mic. He was asking me. Yeah, you please speak a little bit louder, be closer to your mic.
For assignments last week, we only on Blackboard, or we should send you an email?
So if the challenge is in submitting to the Blackboard, then you can send me the email as well.
No, that's on the Blackboard, yeah?
Upload on the Blackboard, that's good enough. But if you can't, then send me through email. But your preference should be the Blackboard.
Okay, I said that we can study also from the book, so which debate?
So I didn't get what you were saying. Could you speak?
We can also, you should study from the book. Which page is the book?
Yes, for the midterm would be from the start of the book to about 160 or 67. Till where you finish your service design.
So we can, that's video and presentation, that video and presentation, that enough for study?
The present for the exam are not. They are good, but do they cover everything? No, covers everything.
I mean,
yes, I'm answering for the exam. questions? Any questions? Then I will see you next week. I'm hoping that there will, but in case of any strike, keep looking for the notifications come from the college. Okay.
Tanya, which classroom? Which classroom in that?
I will send you the information. I will see the information. Okay. So per strike, there will not be any class and there will not be any exam. Keep on looking for the notifications from the college and will proceed as the college advises us to proceed. If any information, I will share it with you. Okay, I'll wrap it for today. If you have any questions, please ask away. If not, then I will hopefully see you next week. Take care and have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.